Well, first of all, let me thank Helene, and let me thank all of you for being here. Over 1,000 of you are here today, knocking on the doors of senators and congressmen and congresswomen, and I am so thrilled that you are here, and we need you now more than ever, given what's happening in this Congress. I love CARE, and I love the motto, defending dignity and fighting poverty. That, to me, is what this country is all about. That is the best of our country. And I think that supporting some of these programs that you support to make sure that kids get fed, that women get empowered, that we invest in sustainable development so that poor communities can thrive on their own, those are things that I think represent the best of our country, and they're worth fighting for. You know, Helene mentioned that I co-chair of the House Hunger Caucus. I have a simple goal before I leave Congress, and that is to end hunger around the world. And you know, as I was explaining earlier today to a group that came to see me, when I talk about hunger, I remind people that hunger is a political condition. We have everything within our power to end hunger all around the world. What we lack is the political will. And I will argue with you that I will argue, you know, until I can't speak anymore, that the kinds of programs that we're talking about supporting are in our national security interest. If people aren't moved by the moral imperative to feed the hungry and help those who are living in extreme poverty, they should be moved by the fact that it is in our national security interest. I'm going to tell you something. The programs that CARE represents and that you've been involved with, do something that I think, maybe it's a radical idea in Washington, but when you help people, help themselves. When you help parents feed their children, when you help provide the basic necessities to get a sustainable project together, something happens. People like us. And when people like us, they're less likely to be involved in efforts to do harm to us. And so, this to me is worth more than all the weapons we send around the world. This to me is in our interest and doesn't undermine our national security like some of the wars that we're now fighting. And so I am so grateful to all of you for being here. People don't have a correct understanding of what we do in terms of foreign investment. People think we're investing 50% or 40% of our budget. You all know it's less than 1%. We have an education job to do, not just throughout the country. You got to educate a few members of Congress. And one of the things that you need to do, is we need to remind people that it is simply unacceptable to cut the foreign assistance budget, especially those programs that help feed hungry people, empower women, and help communities become sustainable. That we are going to watch how people vote, that we are not a cheap date. We do not accept simply, oh, I feel your pain, oh, I'm going to pray for you and these causes. Enough prayers. We need action. And this is in our national security interest. And I'll close with this. Just, you're going to remind people that you're going to be watching. I had the privilege of getting to know John Kenneth Galbraith, who is a great economist and a great philosopher, and he turned out to be a good friend of mine. And I remember him saying during a particularly difficult time in our country when, years ago, when they were making deep cuts in all these programs that help needy people, he told an audience, he says, I'd ask you to go out and comfort the afflicted, but in this climate that may be considered eccentric. So instead, I'm going to ask you to go out and afflict the comfortable and remind them about these programs and about why they're important, and about the fact that you vote and friends vote based on how people vote here in Washington on these issues. Thank you very much for what you do. Thank you for caring. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for representing the best of this country. And as somebody who has been to villages and who has seen hungry children, literally held children that were about to die, it breaks your heart. And we can do something about it. And you are doing it, and I am so grateful, and thank you for this recognition. And keep fighting. I'm going to be there with you all the way.